Modern London is a glittering metropolis of glass, wealth, and extreme technology. But if we reverse the algorithm to 1650, a nightmare emerges.
Welcome to London 1650, a city of cruelty, dirt, and revolution.
To survive a single day here, you had to follow strict rules. Just 1 year prior, the English people had executed their king. This document made it legal.
The city was now ruled by extreme religious radicals, the Puritans.
Your day begins in freezing darkness. There is absolutely no central heating. You light a cheap tallow candle made of animal fat. It reeks of the slaughterhouse. You dress in thick Chores wool. Bright colors are strictly frowned upon by the Puritans. There is zero plumbing. Human waste is thrown directly out the window with a warning shout.
The wooden houses lean radically forward, completely blocking out the morning sun.
Breakfast is simple. Dense, dark rye bread and a tankard of weak ale. The river water is toxic.
Because water was undrinkable, the entire population, all ages, relied on weak ale all day long.
To pay for it, you used the new Commonwealth silver shilling.
Coins were not perfectly round. They were violently struck by hand.
This is a real clipped coin. Criminals snipped off the silver edges to steal the precious metal.
Back home, cooking was done entirely over an open, smoky hearth fire.
The staple diet was pottage, a thick, endlessly boiling vegetable stew that never left the fire. Wealthier homes used a clockwork roasting jack, an ingenious weight-driven device to turn the spit automatically.
But the absolute worst chore of the era was washing clothes.
Without modern chemicals, they used a natural source of ammonia, stale urine.
They mixed it with wood ash to create a highly caustic lye, dangerous but effective.
The clothes were then violently beaten with a wooden club to remove dirt, a prop for 12 to a brutal upper body workout.
Houses were constantly repaired with wattle and daum, a mix of clay, straw, and dung that hardened like concrete. Stepping back outside, the air is thick. London burned cheap sea coal constantly, creating a permanent smog.
The Thames was the main highway, choked with aggressive wooden water taxis called wherries.
The only crossing was Old London Bridge, completely covered in towering wooden houses. Above the gate, traitors' heads were once displayed on iron spikes as a brutal warning, a grisly deterrent.
The poorest of the poor, adults and families, scoured the toxic mud for anything of value. They were called mudlarks. But society was changing rapidly. The printing press was churning out mass information.
Their primary weapon was the heavy, incredibly complex Matchlock musket.
A smoldering rope ignited the powder pan, launching a lead ball with deadly force.
The Puritan government aggressively banned anything considered sinful.
This real document shows that Parliament legally abolished Christmas. Celebrating it became a crime.
All festivities were forbidden. Even eating mince pies could land you in trouble.
But human nature persists. Secret, illegal underground alehouses thrived in the dark.
It was an era of intense paranoia, the terrifying height of the witch trials, driven by fear and superstition.
But exactly in this decade, a radical new, exotic drink arrived: coffee.
Coffee houses became explosive hubs of revolutionary political and scientific debate. They were called penny universities.
Medical science was primitive. Bloodletting with live leeches was the standard cure for almost everything.
Apothecaries mixed bizarre potions from dried roots, metals, and even crushed herbs, forerunners of modern pharmacists.
Need a tooth pulled or a wound stitched? You visited the local barber surgeon. A haircut and a surgical procedure in one place.
As the sun sets, the city prepares for a dangerous, pitch-black night.
The streets were completely unlit, patrolled only by tired, underpaid night watchmen.
Venturing out meant risking violence from ruthless street gangs hiding in the fog. The rich hired torchbearers, often called linkmen, to carry fire and escort them safely home.
At midnight, the night soil men arrived to shovel out the overflowing cesspits, one of history's worst jobs.
Citizens heavily bolted their thick oak doors, locking the terror of the city out.
But they couldn't lock out the rats, the ultimate invisible threat.
The rats carried fleas, and the fleas carried the absolute apocalypse. Just 15 years later, the Great Plague would annihilate 100,000 Londoners,
creating the terrifying, iconic image of the Plague Doctor.
They stuffed the beak with strong-smelling herbs, mistakenly believing the plague spread through bad air.
And the very next year, a single spark in a bakery would ignite the Great Fire.
The only way to stop it was to violently pull down houses to create fire breaks.
When the smoke cleared, over 13,000 houses were completely reduced to ash, forcing the city to rise from the ashes in brilliant white stone. The filth and terror of 1650 are paved over.
But we still walk exactly on top of their ghosts.
A testament to the absolute, brutal resilience of human survival. From Puritan London to the edges of time, which historical era should we reconstruct next? Tell us below. Should we live a day during the Black Death or the Viking Age? History is rarely as pristine as the paintings suggest.
It is messy, painful, and incredibly hard.
A desperate fight for warmth, food, and basic survival. In a world that demanded absolute, unquestioning obedience.
Until the light eventually returns.
The river flows on, washing away the ashes of the past. A city sleeping in the dark, completely unaware of the looming disasters. Marking the end of another brutal day in history. Thanks for watching, and keep exploring the past.
Until next time.
You step out into the absolute chaos of the Cheapside Market.
The crime was so rampant that by law, clippers were severely punished by the authorities. Cheap, sensational news books flooded the streets, the birth of the modern media cycle.
It started on Pudding Lane. The dry wooden houses caught fire immediately.